friends, welcome into Cross My Heart Ministry, and it's Monday, so you know what that means. It's time for a Martha Monday, and it seems like I've often been doing recipes for the Martha Mondays, and this week is no different. I do have another recipe for you, and it is for blueberry pound cake, and I've done it up with red, white, and blue stars. We're posting this today because it's National Blueberry Day, but it's the month that we celebrate our freedom for America, so even though it's a little bit past the 4th of July, it's still blueberry season, and this is a great recipe to make anytime during the month of July or anytime ever. It's just so moist, so delicious. It goes together pretty quickly, and it also freezes really well. So that's what I'm going to do with this pound cake today. Now, before I get to that pound cake, in case you didn't know, it originally started, and it was called pound cake because it would use a pound of 4 different ingredients: a pound of flour, sugar, eggs, and butter. And that was the basics for a pound cake recipe. But of course, they've changed and adapted, and we've adjusted the ingredients. And so my recipe doesn't necessarily call for a pound of all those ingredients, but all the ingredients are on this recipe that you can follow the link in the notes below and download your very own copy. Now, typically, if I'm making this pound cake, it will fill a full butt pan like this one. Mine is a Calphalon. It's non-stick. I love this baking pan. And normally I would put it here, and it has the little ridges, and when you flip it, it just looks real pretty sitting on a pedestal. The blueberries add a little touch of color. You could do some vanilla ice cream, and your guests or your family would just gobble that up. Well, instead of baking it in a full butt pan today, I have these little disposable baking pans. Now, these were offered by Mary and Martha, which is a division of Dayspring. So I have had these. I've used them in the past, never used them for this recipe, but I'm sure they're going to work just fine. They're smaller, and so I'm going to fill these about halfway up, and I'll see kind of how my dough goes. I may get a third one out. I've got several here. But because this blueberry pound cake freezes really well, and because sometimes these days when I'm making something, I am either making it just for Kevin and me, and I don't need a whole cake, or I'm making it to take to another couple or friend, and they don't need a whole cake either. I think this is going to be a great idea to sort of do it in 2 or possibly 3, and just wrap it well, put it in a freezer bag, and then I will be ready next time I need to take a sweet treat to a friend. Another idea would just be to bake this in smaller loaf pans if you wanted to do it that way, and sort of treat it as just a little slice or 2 that you could pull out and serve. So lots of options with this, but again, it's easy, it's delicious, it's moist when you bake it up, and it goes together quickly. So I'm going to move these things out of the way. These my baking pans here so that they are accessible. And I'm just going to go ahead and get out a third one so that I have it at the ready just in case. The nice thing about these ones from Mary and Martha is they have a sweet little saying on the side: treasure the moments, savor the days, taste the goodness. It says on this one. And this one says the same thing. I guess they're just different colors that they say the same thing. I'll see if I can find a link on Amazon to some similar sort of disposable baking pans like this, if you like that idea. Of course, the other great thing is when you take it to a friend, it's already in something disposable. You don't have to worry about getting the container bag like you would if you baked another cake to take. So anyway, well, let's just get right down to it. We're going to jump in. The first ingredient is for a cup of butter, and that is 2 sticks of butter, and I've had that already softening, so it's very soft. I probably need to get a little knife or something maybe. Oh, it did fall off nicely. Let me go ahead and preheat the oven as well. Preheating it to 325 degrees. I'm doing this on convection bake. Actually, I'm going to do my bottom oven instead, since I have my baking pans up there. So 325, my oven automatically converts convection 25 degrees lower, so it's 300, but if you have a regular oven, you want to bake it at 325, and then either lower at 25 degrees if you use convection, or if your oven does that for you. Okay, so the butter is in. I'm going to go ahead and get that a little bit of it twirled, but because I laid it out and remembered to lay it out, It's nice and soft and it's going to go together easily. Now, the recipe says to cream together the butter and the sugar. So we're going to go ahead and cream this sugar. It calls for 2 cups of sugar. So let me measure this out. There's 1 cup. And I think a little over 2 cups of sugar is a pound. I think I actually looked it up, 2.2 pounds or something like that. So if we were the pioneer woman doing a real pound cake, the amount of sugar I'm using would probably be about right. Now I think but a pound of flour would be more volume than just 2 cups. So there's 2 cups of sugar. Let's put the scoop back in. Give this a little whirl. We're gonna let that all get creamed together nicely. And then we're gonna add 4 eggs. I don't know why I only got out 2 eggs, I need 4. So while this is creaming, I'm gonna dash over to the refrigerator and grab 2 more eggs. I'll be right back. Okay, I got my 4 eggs now. You always want to break your eggs in a separate container because you may get a little eggshell in there and you want to be able to fish it out. And believe me, a lot easier to fish it out of a clear bowl than it is to fish it out of the batter. So I've learned that lesson the hard way. I'll just go ahead and confess that. Oh, and I do see a little piece of eggshell. So there is case in point. See if I can do that without being the mixer. Ooh, there we go. Okay. Up a notch. Get that mixed in nicely. 2 eggs down, 2 more to go. Don't want to count the carbs or cholesterol in this one, but the eggs will make it nice and fluffy and delicious. It's part of what makes it a pound cake. I think every pound cake recipe probably has at least 4 eggs in it. I've seen some that have 5 or 6. Probably what makes it so nice and moist. Get these eggshells out of my way. Drop our last egg in there. That mixes in nicely. I'm going to grab a spatula, kind of rake down the sides to make sure it all gets mixed in. So the next thing we're going to do, I think, is go ahead and add the vanilla. Yes. So that will be everything that goes in here to be mixed, and then we're going to put together all of the dry ingredients in a separate bowl. Get those all mixed together well. Make sure that the baking powder, and the salt are all mixed into that flour nicely. So that is looking good there. Let's go ahead and drop in the vanilla. Calls for a teaspoon of this. Don't sprinkle the vanilla. I know you hear me say that all the time, but use the real stuff instead of the imitation flavor. Okay, so that looks like that's all mixed. And we don't need that noise because I want you to be able to hear me. Okay, the next ingredients are all the dry ones. So we're gonna do 3 cups of flour. Again, that's not quite a pound. I think my research said that it's about 4 cups would be needed to make a pound. So it's not a classic pound cake recipe, but close enough. So there's 3 cups of flour. There we go. Okay, 3 cups of flour, and then a teaspoon, half a teaspoon. Yes, that's what I've got. Half a teaspoon of salt. Sprinkle that in, and then a teaspoon of baking powder. I'm going to mix this all in together really well, and then we're going to keep some of it out to sort of dredge the blueberries in. So it's all going to get added later, but we're going to dredge the blueberries, and the reason you do that is it keeps the blueberries, if they're kind of coated with the flour mixture, it keeps them all from just sort of falling to the bottom, and sort of lets the blueberries be sort of mixed throughout the batter. At least that's what I've been told. So I just do what the recipe says. And my blueberries always do seem to be seen throughout. When you slice that blueberry pound cake, you want to see blueberries throughout that entire slice, not just loaded up in the bottom, or I guess what would be the top since you'd flip it. But at any rate, we want blueberries throughout our batter. Okay, so I've got all of my dry ingredients, kind of mix those together. We're going to reserve 1 cup. and add the remaining mixture to the batter. So I'm just going to take 1 cup of this. I've already got my blueberries measured out. I washed and rinsed and dried 2 cups of blueberries. That's 1 pint. These look nice and delicious. So I'm just going to put 1 cup of flour here, and we're going to fold those through that flour here a little bit. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and add our flour mixture to the liquid mixture here. See how fast this goes together? It's a very easy recipe to whip up quickly. Now, it does take a long time to bake because it's pound cake. It bakes for 1 hour and 15 minutes. So you've got to be sure that you whip it up when you're going to be home for a while and you can do other chores and have something else going on. So I've got flour flying into the air, forgot my cover, but that's getting mixed together nicely. We're going to get that all mixed in, and it's just about there. Okay, here we go. I think that is done. I'm going to get all the batter off of my beater here as much as I possibly can. I don't have children here, adult children or otherwise, to lick that batter, and I don't want to be tempted to do it, so just going to try to get it all off and not waste any delicious goodness going down the sink when I watch this beater. Oh, and good timing. That little jingle tells me that the oven is ready for our cake whenever we have it all mixed together. So let me just get everything right down the side. It's kind of stiff, so when you have a pound cake recipe, if you've ever made one, the batter is not sort of as runny as a regular cake. It's a little more stiff, and that's okay because that's why it's a pound cake. So I'm going to use my wooden spoon and just sort of mix these blueberries in. Seems like from making this before that I realized you probably don't need to save back an entire cup, but I'm just going to sort of make sure that as I drop those blueberries in, that each one of them is sort of coated with a little bit of flour. So there we go. And of course, this final mixing needs to be done by hand because I don't want to have my blueberries all squished by that powerful mixer. So this is a little more work to do manually, but work it we shall. You don't want to see any of the flour, so I just kind of keep raking down the side and let it get mixed in, and hopefully I'm protecting my blueberries and keeping them intact as much as possible. But it's getting mixed in, almost ready, and it is really kind of stiff, so don't be alarmed that it's not just going to pour out like regular cake batter. I'm excited to have this. I've got a couple of friends in mind that I'm going to share this with, and I've about decided that this is just something I should keep in the freezer all the time. I bought several of these packages of the disposable cake plates, or cake bakers, and so I'm probably going to use the rest of the blueberries that I bought and do another batch of this, and just feel really good about having 3 or 4 of these little mini cakes in my freezer and ready and available when I need to run over and encourage somebody with a sweet treat. So that's going to be a blessing to me and hopefully a blessing to someone else. Now, these particular cake pans are not only disposable, but they're pre-treated, so they do not have to be sprayed, which is fabulous. So we're going to see how this little experiment works out. And here, you see how stiff it is. So I'm just going to sort of drop this in little by little and then pat it down with my spatula because it certainly does not pour in. It's been a while since I made this. This recipe came from just a precious woman of God. She and her husband were Sunday school teachers, and Kevin and I were newlyweds. Her name is Carol Ann Blessing, and a blessing she was to me. Just a godly woman that she probably had no idea the influence that she had on my life. She's gone on to be with the Lord now several years ago, had cancer, but she lived a life that mattered. She lived a life that made much of the Lord and modeled a love for Him and a love for His Word that truly inspired me. And so every time I make this cake, I think of her. And so besides the blessing of how delicious and good it is the blessing of remembering this fabulous woman that God allowed me to call my friend. And so that's just a joy for me and another fun reason that I enjoy making this particular cake. So, all right, trying to fit in this smaller amount around the edge of the little tube in the tube pan. And it's just going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to go ahead and not make you watch me do all of this. I'll get it all completed and decide if if I'll have enough to do more than one cake, or if I get 3, or if I can only get 2. I know for sure I'll get 2 because they're so small. But I'm going to finish this off camera, and then I will take a photo and let you see the final product. But I hope you'll give it a try at home. I'm guessing that, of course, it says that it bakes 1 hour and 15 minutes, but because I'm doing a smaller volume and these smaller cakes, I'm going to set my timer for about 40 minutes and then use a toothpick to check and see if it comes out clean to know that it's done. And I will add in my notes below the video how long it took to bake it, since I was doing the smaller cake sizes. So I'm going to go and finish this up off camera. I hope that you'll give this a try at home. You can follow the link below to print it, but I hope that you'll give my blueberry pound cake a try. For Cross My Heart Ministry, I'm Laura McFarland. Happy baking.